This is a first draft. It's the first draft of a short story that I've been working on for probably about 2 weeks. I spent a long time working on the outline, trying to make sure that everything was tight. I spent a long time actually drafting it out. But this first draft is all it's going to be. It's not going past the first draft stage. And there are a lot of reasons why. But I'll tell you, it hurts every time. I'm not going to work anymore on that draft of that story, and that's pretty unusual for me. For the most part, I try to at least get a second draft going, because you never really know whether something's going to work or not until you kind of get it off the ground. There are exceptions to that, though. Last year, I wrote an entire first draft of a novel that I was thrilled about. And about halfway through the second draft, I realized this wasn't working. This isn't what I want to do. It's not going any further. And it's hard to know that without working that second draft. But in the instance of this short story, I did know that. And I had to come to terms with it pretty quickly. There are a few different ways to know if something's not working. And one of the big ones for me is that I'm not excited to work on the second draft. I love the second draft so much. That's where something really starts to come together. By that point, I've kind of realized where it needs to go. I've realized things I want to hit, highlights that I want to push, themes that have bubbled up from the surface. But if I get to that second draft point and I'm not excited about any of those things, that's how I know. And for this story, I realized that I was avoiding starting on the second draft, which is very unusual, but I was making excuses to not sit down to it. And I had to kind of think about why that is. Because there could be a lot of reasons that you don't want to sit down. I don't always want to sit down and work on anything, but you have to push through that. But I also think it's important to listen to that and think about why. I think one of the big reasons with this is it was a little outside of not my comfort zone, but what I know. It had some kind of sci-fi themes, and that's not really something I know a lot about. That can be interesting, but I felt that I was in waters that I didn't know how to navigate. And the story itself, the overall concept, I think was not that interesting or original, but I don't really know because I don't really read that much sci-fi, but it seemed pretty boilerplate. Sort of a thinly veiled allegory. Bogus. I also found myself sort of coasting through the first draft, which is not an experience that I usually have. Generally, with the first draft, I tend to want to go back and look at what I wrote the day before and maybe make a few changes here and there before I start on that day's work. But with this, I just kind of was, coasting through it, not really putting much thought into it. And that's unusual. And I think that it's a sign that I wasn't that passionate about it or interested in it, and how on earth am I going to expect someone else to be? So it's going in the trash. The proverbial trash, at least for now. It's going to sit on my shelf here with my failed first draft of a novel. But that doesn't mean I'm throwing everything away. And here's the nice thing about having a story that's been completed, but you're not going to go further with it. The main character of this story was interesting. I really liked him, and it was the one thing that almost made me pause and think maybe I should push through this. So he's not going away. I'm going to keep him. And I'm going to put him in something that he deserves to be in. It sort of felt like this character was very well defined, interesting, but he wasn't in the right situation. So he is going to stay. He's going to stay somewhere up here. In the creation of this main character, I also learned something about creating characters in general. One of which was experimenting with how a character speaks in their mind. This was a first-person story, and how they speak to other people, and how those can be different. It was one of the things that made him interesting. That's another thing that I'm going to keep. Because every time you work on something, you learn something. So it's not a loss to throw this story away. At all. So I guess the big question is, what am I going to do now? I spent so much time outlining this story and thinking about it. I'm gonna just live. I'm gonna watch movies. I'm gonna ride my bicycle. I'm gonna read, of course. That goes without saying. I'll do a video at some point about reading. I'm going to go to the grocery store. I'm going to keep my eyes open. And I'm going to wait until something comes along that I can see all the way through. I think that was one of the other big issues with this story, is I couldn't see it all the way through. And I think you know that a story's going to work if you think of the idea and you see it. And I didn't have that with this. But I'm not going to worry. Because there have always been stories that come along. And there will be again.